Tiger fans, it's time for some final thoughts on the upcoming game against the Crows tomorrow. It's going to be a tough ask, even though it's at the G, which I think does play into our favour a little bit. Obviously, the Crows are travelling pretty well at the moment, and we're still, as we all know, pretty heavy in our rebuild phase. What worries me a little bit is them maybe after a little bit of retribution after we knocked them off last year. I don't think they were too happy with that whatsoever. And their three-pronged big forwards is also something we have to seriously pay attention to. Taylor Walker, Riley Thilthorpe, Darcy Fogarty, they're no slouches, and you have to pay all three respect, otherwise one will get off the chain. They're actually quite a unique side. That they're probably the only one that poses a genuine big three that you've got to actually worry about. And that's why with our changes, bringing in Jacob Blight and McKelty Lafau, I know McKelty's going to play up the other end of the field, but Jacob Blight in particular, I think is a really good addition. Like we've spoken about before, he's been averaging about 20-odd touches and 14 marks a game for the last 5 weeks in the VFL. And I'm not at all suggesting he's going to do the same thing again in the AFL, because it's obviously a bit of a level difference. But I think it's going to complement Miller and Bolter really well. I've seen a lot of comments saying they think we're too tall and too top-heavy. Normally, I would agree with that if we weren't playing a side that's got three big forwards. If they only had two of those players, I don't think Blight would have played. But I think the coaching staff and match committee have actually shown the Adelaide Crows forwards the respect they probably deserve with how dangerous they can be by bringing in Jacob Blight to help partner with Bolter and Miller to try and curb the influence, because Broad and Vlosten are just a little bit too undersized, as is probably Tom Brown physically, to compete with them. And we would have just put ourselves in a lot more danger by trying to run it that way. So Noah Bolter, in particular, I'm looking for a massively different performance than the one he gave against the Bulldogs. It just simply wasn't up to standard. It was like he wasn't in the game mentally. And, like we said, he's got a bit of shit on, but that's his own fault. He needs to sort that out and rise above it and put up a solid performance for us, because we need him to be firing, because it helps the rest of the back line do their thing as well. On to McKelty Lafau. I've been screaming to change the balance of our forward line for a few weeks now, and they've finally done it. As much as I love what Sims had been doing, and same as Fall, it just wasn't meshing having both of them alongside Lynch. It was leaving too much up to Lynch. Opposition defenders who were experienced were too good to zone off Fall and Sims to create double teams or triple teams on Lynch, which ultimately led to opposition taking intercept marks, which then means our small forwards don't get involved because the ball's not hitting the ground. We're not generating enough score shots from our forward entries. And it's pretty much the reason why we were struggling to kick goals in quarters, because we were just far too predictable and too easy to play against. So McKelty changes that drastically. His pressure is going to be elite, and I would play him personally as the deepest forward. So when Adelaide are kicking out, or if they've taken a mark deep, I want him to be the one chasing and shutting down those exit lanes, because Lynch can't do it. And that way we're going to prevent Adelaide from getting 3 kicks down the field in a blink of an eye, which gives us a chance to set up the ground and actually defend the ground a bit better, which might result in more repeat inside 50s, which is what AFL's kind of based on these days. So I'm excited to see how that goes, and I'm excited to see what the flow-on effect is for Steely Green, for Seth Campbell, for Ryan Mansell, with the ball hopefully hitting the deck a bit more if we aren't marking it ourselves. Because you just know that McKelty, he's a competitive animal by nature. He hits hard. He'll smash packs all day, and he's a real physical unit. So I'm looking forward to that. Backup ruck roll. I'm assuming it's going to be rolled between Blight and Lafau to give Nanka chop out when needed, which is fine. Look, they'll be going up against Thilthorpe, which would be a tough ask. They've just got to break even. Maybe they can hurt him around the ground potentially by running off him. We'll have to wait and see. And the sub roll, it's an interesting one. The bench as it stands now is listed as Tyler Sonsie, Camden McIntosh, Jacob Blight, McKelty Lafau, and Jasper Alga. The bigs don't make sense for the sub role. Alga, I'll be gobsmacked if he's made sub for the second week in a row. So I feel like by process of elimination, it's down to Sonsie and McIntosh, assuming that it comes from the bench name players, of course. I would be leaning more towards Camden McIntosh at this stage. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we do there. But look, overall, the main things I want to see from us tomorrow, or like today, depending on when you watch it, I want to make sure we kick at least a goal a quarter. I know that sounds very low bar, but there's been 2 games in a row now where we've gone goalless for multiple quarters, and it's just not okay to have happen at any level. So we need to rectify that. We need to make sure that we're competitive on the inside and helping to restrict their run on the outside. And we just can't play into their hands. We've got to mix it up with how we enter the forward line. Past the leading plays, try and get out of that bombing at long option all the time. I know sometimes it's the only way because they cut off exits for us, and I get it, but we've got to just make sure we work harder. And accurate goal kicking, of course. I mean, the fact that that's somewhat been a catalyst for our players dropping their head is a little bit concerning. So if we can hit the scoreboard accurately early, maybe that makes them a bit more up and about, and we might see a bit more fight for a bit longer. But definitely don't drop your heads, boys, if you do miss some early goals. Just keep creating the opportunities. And if you keep creating the opportunities, the reward will come. But yeah, some accurate kicking early would help with everyone's confidence, undoubtedly. But yeah, big game tomorrow at the G. Looking forward to seeing if we've got a response, if we've learnt from the Bulldogs in the Sydney game. And fingers crossed we can put on a good show against the Crows. And who knows, it could be an upset on the cards. You know, we've done it before, and we might be able to do it again. I feel like this is our most balanced team for the year, despite the extra tool, just because it matches what the Crows have. And I think it gives us the best chance possible to have more meaningful entries forward, which I think is going to be a big help for all of us involved, which will be good. But there it is. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What are your final thoughts in the game? What are you looking forward to? And hopefully we can do a fan cam on Sunday night where everyone's relatively happy with the results. So enjoy the game tomorrow and go Tigers.